In the summer of 1918, one man came closer to killing communism than any army ever did. His name was Sidney Reilly. He was not his real name. He was the most dangerous spy Britain ever produced. He was also mostly fiction. He told different stories about himself to different people. He kept no single true version. But in the summer of 1918, what he nearly did was real. He was born somewhere around 1873, probably in Odessa, to a Jewish family called Rosenblum. He disliked this fact and rarely mentioned it. As a young man, he traveled to South America, possibly to Brazil, possibly to escape something. He arrived in England and acquired a British passport through a marriage that may have been legal. He shed one identity and built another. He did this more than once. By 1900, he was working for British naval intelligence. No one was entirely sure how he got there. He operated in Manchuria before the Russo-Japanese War, selling intelligence to both sides. He forged documents, bribed officials, and cultivated men who had secrets. He worked for money and for sport. He was very good at both. His bosses called him unreliable. They kept using him anyway. He spoke 6 languages without accent. He could become a German businessman by afternoon. He had multiple identities running simultaneously. He kept them all straight. He married at least twice without divorcing the previous wife. He saw this as efficient. By 1917, he was in New York, running intelligence operations for Britain and America. Then Russia collapsed. The Tsar fell in February 1917. By October, Lenin had taken Petrograd. The Bolsheviks were expected to collapse within weeks. They did not. Lenin signed a peace with Germany in March 1918, pulling Russia out of the war. This was a catastrophe for Britain. Without Russia, Germany could move its entire army west. Someone needed to do something about Lenin. In March 1918, British intelligence sent Robert Bruce Lockhart to Moscow as an unofficial envoy. Lockhart was charming, young, and in over his head. Reilly arrived in Moscow separately, under a fake identity, with orders that were vague on purpose. He arrived as a Turkish merchant, then as a Greek, then as a German businessman. Moscow in 1918 was a city of checkpoints, shortages, and fear. The Bolsheviks had moved the capital from Petrograd to Moscow to escape a German advance. The streets were full of soldiers, secret police, and people trying not to be noticed. Reilly blended in. He had practice. He made contact with anti-Bolshevik networks, White Army sympathizers, and corrupt officials. He also made contact with the Latvian Red Guards who protected the Kremlin. The Latvians were not Bolsheviks by conviction. They were soldiers for hire. Their commander was a man named Eduard Berzin. He was willing to listen. Reilly presented a proposal, British money in exchange for a simple action. At the next full session, the Latvians would arrest everyone in the council chamber. Lenin, Trotsky, the entire Soviet leadership, in one night. What happened next was not decided. That was the problem. Some wanted to shoot them immediately. Others wanted a show trial. Reilly wanted to march them through Moscow in their underwear, to humiliate them publicly. He believed that if Russia saw Lenin humiliated, the spell would break. It was a plan built on a theory. The theory was untested. Lockhart was informed. He was skeptical but reported it to London. London sent money. They did not send approval in writing. Through July 1918, the plot grew. More people were brought in. More people brought in meant more chances of someone talking. Someone talked. A Latvian officer approached the Chayka and reported a British agent trying to bribe the guards. The Chayka was Lenin's secret police. They did not waste time. They sent their own men in, posing as officers willing to be bribed. Reilly paid them. They took careful notes. The Chayka let the plot run for a while. They wanted to see everyone involved. On August 30th, 1918, a woman named Fanny Kaplan shot Lenin twice outside a factory. She was not part of the plot. She was a socialist revolutionary acting alone. Lenin survived, but the shooting triggered something massive. The Bolsheviks declared Red Terror. Thousands were arrested. Executions began. The Chayka moved to close everything connected to the British. Lockhart was arrested. British agents across Moscow were rounded up. Reilly heard the news and moved fast. He destroyed his papers, abandoned his apartments, and contacted his escape network. He moved through the city on foot, changed safe houses twice in one night. The Chayka had his description, but not his face. He had no face to give. He crossed out of Moscow dressed as a railway worker. He made it to Petrograd and lay low for 2 weeks. He eventually reached the Finnish border and crossed on foot at night. He arrived in Stockholm and sent a coded telegram to London. He was alive. The plot had failed. He did not seem embarrassed. Back in London, he was debriefed and given a medal. The official version was that nothing had happened. There was no plot. Lockhart was released in a prisoner exchange and wrote a memoir that made him sound heroic. The Soviets tried Reilly in absentia. He was sentenced to death. He had been sentenced to death before. It did not stop him. Throughout the early 1920s, Reilly continued working against the Soviet government from abroad. He funded White Russian émigré groups in Paris and Berlin. He believed, genuinely, that the Soviet regime was a temporary illness and would soon collapse. It did not collapse. He took this personally. In 1923, he was approached by a contact who told him about an organization inside Russia. It was called the Trust. It claimed to be a large underground network of anti-Bolsheviks. They had members in the military, the government, even the secret police. They needed experienced leadership and Western contacts. Reilly was interested. The Trust was not real. It was a creation of the Cheka. Every meeting, every document, every contact was controlled by Soviet intelligence. They had been running it for 3 years, catching émigrés who tried to return. Reilly was told the time was nearly right. One meeting inside Russia would seal everything. He agreed to cross the border. His friends warned him. His wife warned him. His instincts should have warned him. He had built his career on reading people and detecting deception. He did not detect this one. In September 1925, he crossed the Finnish-Soviet border at night with 2 Trust contacts. He was arrested within minutes of crossing. He was taken to Moscow and held in Lubyanka prison. He was interrogated for weeks. He gave them some of what they wanted. He wrote a letter saying he had seen the error of his ways. He may have meant some of it. On November 5, 1925, he was taken into the woods outside Moscow. He was shot in the back of the head. His death was not announced. He simply disappeared. For years, his wife believed he was still alive somewhere. The Soviet government finally acknowledged his execution decades later. By then, he had become a legend. Ian Fleming may have based James Bond partly on Reilly. No one can confirm this. Bond was given a license to kill. Reilly never asked for a license. Bond always won. Reilly died in a forest outside Moscow. But the comparison stuck because both were projections of the same fantasy. The idea that one clever man, with enough nerve, could change the course of history. In the summer of 1918, Reilly nearly proved that idea right. The Council of People's Commissars met on August 28, 1918. Lenin was in the room. So was Trotsky. So was the entire Soviet leadership. The Latvian guards were in place. The plan was set. Then it was not. The meeting was canceled. The moment passed. History turned on a canceled meeting. Reilly spent the rest of his life trying to get back to that moment. He never did. The Soviet Union lasted until 1991. It outlived him by 66 years. In another history, it never started.